Hello and welcome back to AAN Arbitrary Acronym Network. As always, I'm your anchor, Ellie Berg, and we have got some exciting stories here tonight. We have celebrity gossip, political mishaps, social media trends, natural disasters, and more. But first up, we are going to talk about two satirical pieces. Okay, that's different. Well, seems like we've got first up a 2006 White House Correspondents' Dinner with Stephen Colbert and the 1976 film Network. Okay, and it seems like we've got someone here to help us talk about these things. Berg Ellie.
Thank you for having me, Ellie Berg.
Whatever. So, Berg Ellie, weird names. What exactly are these works about, and how do they satirize the theme of media?
Well, first let's talk about Stephen Colbert's 2006 performance at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Through a series of biting remarks and cutthroat jokes, Colbert calls out various hypocrisies and shortcomings of the Bush administration and the media. For example, Colbert expresses sarcastic support for Bush, saying things like, I stand by this man because he stands for things. Not only for things, he stands on things. Things like aircraft carriers and rubble in recently flooded city squares, and that sends a strong message that no matter what happens to America, she will always rebound with the most powerfully staged photo ops in the world. In doing so, he highlights the way the politicians and the media tend to talk about disasters only in their aftermath and how they attract attention with a superficial message of support that often does little to help the situation. He ends his time with a pre-recorded video acting as the White House press secretary, where he mocks the press secretary's tendency to avoid answering questions asked by reporters. Network, on the other hand, provides an intriguing tale of a news anchor named Howard Beale as he begins to lose his sanity, which his network exploits for profit and personal gain. In particular, the character Diana Christensen sees Beale as an opportunity to gain money and power, and the network executive Arthur Jensen uses Beale to spread money-driven propaganda to a large audience, saying, I've chosen you to preach this evangel. Even Beale's death is used to forward the network's agenda, as Diana arranges an assassin to kill Beale on live television, kicking off a separate season of a television series about a terrorist organization, the Ecumenical Liberation Army. Diana is so desperate for views, she allows a terrorist organization to spread their message on network television. Both of these ideas of media manipulation take it to a hypothetical extreme in order to satirize how news prioritizes personal and corporate gain over integrity and the truth. So the recorded aspect of these works, one being a movie and the other a televised speech, exemplify the more modern concept of media and especially how it pertains to television. In the modern day and age, recorded works often reach a larger audience than what we might think of as being typical written satire. In addition, rather than just reading satire about the media, we are provided with satire about media in media, kind of going back to satire's tendency to satirize from within. For Colbert's speech, his large audience at a televised event gave him the opportunity to provide viewers with satirical content about the media. And in Network, during one of Beale's episodes of Mania, he tells his viewers, you're never going to get any truth from us. We'll tell you anything you want to hear. And because these statements are presented within the context of a news event, there's an added shock factor that really emphasizes the words, as it reverses the expectations of how a newscaster would typically behave. Because Network and Colbert's parody at the end of the speech are both pre-recorded and deal in token fantasy, they're also able to push the limits of what is reasonable to occur in real life. For example, in Network, the television company's partnership with the terrorist organization is a very extreme, unlikely occurrence, but shows the prioritization of money over morals of many network studios. Similarly, when mocking the press secretary in his skit, Colbert is asked a controversial question and turns down a volume knob on his podium that causes the reporter's voice to fade and responds, if I can't hear you, I can't answer your question. I'm sorry, I have to move on. This element of fantasy helps Colbert better communicate his point about the press secretary's tendency to avoid answering questions. And by demonstrating or parodying televised news, Network and Colbert are able to explore the hypothetical lengths that companies are willing to go to in order to get views.
Oh, okay. Now, you claim that satire can change the world, is that right? Well, which of these two pieces do you think is more effective at potentially changing the world?
I definitely think satire can change the world. I think that satire helps people to better understand and analyze the world around them, and sometimes even themselves, and anything that contributes to changing people's mindsets has the potential to change the world. Of these two pieces, I think network is probably more effective at doing so, though, because it is still seen as a popular classic movie, while Colbert's speech has had a much smaller audience since its broadcast. I primarily attribute this to two reasons. First, that Colbert's speech is mocking the media, but the media are the ones who have the choice whether or not to give his speech any screen time. And secondly, that Colbert's speech is more topical concerning events of the time, and network primarily focused on a fictional television network, fictional characters, and a fictional outcome, which helps it to better transcend its time period, and doesn't really rely on the viewer's knowledge of certain events. That being said, I do think that the themes of media manipulation covered in both pieces are still relevant today, as clickbait and engrossing stories are still often used to overshadow important ideas and messages, and network news often only show one side of a story that they know will appeal to their audience, regardless of other details and facts.
Okay, well, my producers are signaling me that is all the time we have for this segment. Thank you again for being with us here today, Ms. Berg, Ellie, and talking about satire. Join us after the break, where we talk about the latest political scandal, whether or not it actually happened, and whatever else we think may garner audience attention.